This is episode number 404 of the Health and Fitness Podcast by InnerFight, sponsored, as you guys know, by Smith Street Paleo. If you didn't know that we're sponsored by Smith Street Paleo yet, you don't watch the show, so you don't see all the branding, and you haven't been over to iTunes and rated and reviewed the podcast, remember, hop over to iTunes, rate and review the podcast, and we're going to send you a load of Smith Street stuff. Smith Street have a load of new stuff coming out as well. Those of you that love breakfast, waffles for breakfast. What did I have yesterday? Sweet potato parfait. This morning, chocolate smoothie with granola. It's all going off. All you have to do, shameless plugs here, left and right, but all you have to do is go over to iTunes, rate and review the podcast. Let us know that you've done it. That's super important. Tell us that you've reviewed the podcast, and we will send you a bag of goodies. It's not all about Smith Street Paleo. This is another show, and I have another guest. I would say he's come all the way from America, which he has done, but he actually lives here in Dubai. Brian MacArthur, mate, welcome to the show, and thanks for taking the time to be with us.
Yeah, it's great to be here. Thanks
Brian,
for having me.
Before the show, we were talking about it. We're going to get to what you do now, but give us a little bit of background, mate. You're from New York, and you live in the Middle East. How did that all happen?
Yeah, exactly. So, grew up in New York, went to school out west in Arizona. I was a track and field athlete to start there.
Right.
My main event was the steeplechase. So,
wow. I've actually never met anyone that does steeplechase.
Yeah, 3,000 meters.
3,000.
Yeah.
What distance do they do the steeplechase over? Excuse my ignorance.
It's always 3,000 meters.
It's always 3,000.
Yeah,
okay,
standard
cool.
distance.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, so got into that in high school. Most places in the U.S., they don't have steeplechase available for high school athletes.
Right.
But in New York, for whatever reason, it's become really popular. So they most of the meets that you go to, you can race the 3,000 meter steeplechase.
I always wondered that because when I was at school, all I wanted to do was what they did in the Olympics, which was pole vault.
Yeah.
And nowhere in my school and nowhere in the schools around me, I think there was one school that we used to go to athletics at that actually had pole vault, but like only 2 kids were allowed to do it.
Yeah.
Like, how does anyone go to the Olympics for this thing? So
Yeah,
it's a similar scenario.
And I think part of the reason why pole vault is so hard to find is because, one, the equipment is expensive.
Right.
It's can be quite dangerous.
Slightly.
And the insurance and stuff like that.
Yeah, right.
So they make it a bit difficult
but
to
steeplechase, a little bit more straightforward, but not such a common event.
Right.
Yeah.
So for the steeplechase, for those of you who don't know, it's basically it's a long distance hurdling event. They're not hurdles though; they're actually barriers. So
right.
obviously, it's based off of the horse running event,
right?
Where you're going up and over barriers. There's per 400 meters. There's 4 normal barriers, and then there's 1 barrier that has a water pit afterwards.
Is there a regulation depth of that water pit?
Yes, there is.
How deep is it?
I would say it's slanted, right? So
yeah.
you land on like a slanted platform.
Or the good races, people just end up stacking in it. Don't they?
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, the higher level you get, basically the idea is you get 1 foot in, 1 foot out.
Right.
So typically, like for me, my left foot was always wet because that was the foot that I landed first with. So 1 foot, and because you want to stride it out. You want to jump as if you're like jumping into a sand pit, right? You have to continue the momentum, continue running.
Anyone that doesn't know what we're talking about, just go and Google something like, or YouTube, steeplechase fails, and you'll get a load of these great videos that I remember watching as a kid, because you basically hop onto the beam, which is about, hurdle height was 110, right? 1 meter 10 for.
Yeah,
I know for hurdles it was. So I guess steeplechase is at least that or a bit bigger.
Yeah, it's the same.
Right,
it's the same
and
standard.
your foot's going on there, and you're trying to hop over. It's about, isn't it about 3 meters long, that water pit?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so you get some quite interesting stuff there.
Yeah. So 3,000 meters up and over the barriers, and
wow.
that was my specialty at university when I was racing.
Right.
Was there for 5 years, and then it kind of got to that point where, obviously university was done, which I loved competing, but I wasn't ready to be done competing.
Right.
But I wasn't quite good enough to turn pro in track and field.
Yeah.
So I started kind of looking at other ways to continue being an athlete because I loved it so much, and so I turned to triathlon.
Right.
Was introduced to triathlon by my high school coach.
So you started triathlon quite late.
Yeah.
A lot of people start a lot younger, and it's funny because the guys a lot of the guys that I see that are actually doing quite well are the ones that started early, and then obviously you've got a lot of the midlife crisis guys that start when they're sort of 35, 2.4 children and a 38-inch waistline.
Yeah.
But so this was sort of, how old were you when you started triathlon then?
So I would have been 22 when I started.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, very cool.
Yeah.
And what was it like, mate, going from, you obviously said you've got a competitive athletic background, into a sport that's multidisciplined, it's complete. When people jump into it, it's a complete minefield. How much time do I put in this training, that training? How was it for you? Yeah,
it's difficult. It was a lot harder than I thought it was going to be, honestly.
Really?
I mean, I had the run, my run was fine.
Yeah.
Didn't need to really run any faster.
Yeah.
The bike I picked up pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And the thing with the bike is, if you have the engine from running,
yeah,
there's not too much technique involved in the bike.
Yeah.
So you just get on the bike and you can go hard.
Yeah.
Whereas the swim is a completely different animal.
I think a lot of people that follow the show are into triathlons or into endurance, and they're probably thinking exactly the same thing.
Exactly.
And that's why you see everyone practicing running and biking and not as much swimming.
Yeah. So I fought the water for years and never quite won, I don't think. I mean, I got better, but the thing that I really struggled with, I think, in the pool is like taking the time to focus on the technique and slowing things down. I was so used to the run where, I mean, I guess it just came naturally to me, but for me, it was in the run and on the bike, if I worked harder, I went faster.
Yeah.
But it's not the same in the
Swimming
in the water.
Is totally different, yeah.
I would work harder and go slower.
Really?
Because my form would break down.
Yeah, it breaks down, yeah.
And then you're just fighting the water. You're not working with it.
So how was your first race in triathlon?
It was good.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, first race, you're not really expecting, a whole lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a solid race, I guess.
And mate, as a child growing up, was competition? Because I always like to try and dig into people's motivations and why and what's and wherefores, because I think this also reflects as to why we continue to be successful at things, why we continue to keep going. What sports were you into as a youngster, and what got you into those sports? Were your parents into the sports? Give us a little background on that.
Yeah, so I mean, growing up in New York, my dad was a good athlete,
Right.
But everyone was kind of. I feel like in the U.S. you see it a lot, is people don't quite know what sport to do,
right?
Which I think is a good thing to start out with. So I played soccer or football, you guys call it.
Yeah.
A little bit of baseball,
right?
Which wasn't my favorite. It was a bit too slow for me.
Yeah.
Basketball.
I heard it just takes hours, baseball.
Yeah, exactly.
And everyone just gets drunk in the stands.
Yeah, exactly.
I think a sport that people are just sitting there drinking can't be that interesting on the field, right?
Yeah.
So that one was out the window.
Yeah. So then by the time I was about 14 or 15 years old, I narrowed it down, and then I started running track and field for high school. And then I was playing pretty serious soccer on the side.
Right.
And it got to the point where I was, getting better on the track.
Yeah.
The club team was getting more and more serious as we got older.
Right.
And it came to the point where I needed to decide one or the other. I didn't want to be, mediocre at both.
Yep.
I wanted to focus on one and just completely put all my eggs in that basket. So I decided to go with track and field. And then
how old were you, did you say?
I was 15 when I made
15,
that.
Yeah.
But until then, I was playing all kinds of sports. Yeah.
Wow.
I actually didn't watch very many sports at all.
Really?
I was always out playing them. So I didn't really become a sports fan per se until I went to university and was a bit older.
So first triathlon race went well.
Yeah.
Enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And it's through triathlon that actually is the main reason how you got to Dubai. So talk us through that sort of progression of your triathlon racing and obviously how you got here.
Yeah, exactly. So I got here, triathlon, I was training in Colorado. So I moved to Colorado to focus on that.
Yeah.
And Boulder's arguably one of the best places in the world to train. Culmination of things, the weather, the altitude, the facilities there are incredible as coaches. So it's just a breeding ground for athletes.
Wow.
So especially during the summer, you see tons of athletes flocking to Boulder to...
Isn't it freezing cold in winter, or...?
It is cold.
Yeah.
It does snow there.
Yeah.
But it's also very sunny at the same... So, they get, more than 300 days of sun of the year.
No way. So
when
it's the ideal place to live.
Yeah, exactly. So when it snows, but then the next day it's sunny and melts all the snow. So it's not like there's lingering, periods of where it's super, super cold.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, so ended up in Boulder. Got myself into a training group. There was about 15 professional triathletes. Wow. A couple of pro cyclists.
So you're obviously pretty decent.
Yeah, it was okay. Yeah.
I mean, just casually got myself into this pro training group, and like for most people, mate, especially a lot of the sort of what I'd call amateurs that maybe listen to the show, no problem with you amateur guys, we love you equally, but like for them, it's a dream to train with the pros, and you're like, yeah, I found some pros and started to train. So you're obviously pretty flipping fast.
Yeah, I mean, look, I had a very strong running background, which translated quite well.
Give us some of the stats on your running. What are some of the records? We didn't speak about that. I love records. I love timing. I love measures. What distance? Did you race across a mile? I mean, you guys are all screwed up still with
Occasionally.
What was your sort of go-to running distance then, outside of steeplechase?
I would say the 5K.
Time? Best time?
14:20.
Holy freaking shit. Yeah, so 14:20 is just under 3 minutes a K.
Yeah.
For 5K.
Yeah.
Just listen to that one more time, guys. Just under 3 minutes a K for 5Ks. That's pretty special, mate.
Yeah, although when I was at university, I had teammates running 13:10.
Wow.
They were Kenyan athletes, but
I was going to say the Kenyans, and for the Nike Breaking 2, what was it? The pace was something like that for the 2 hours, isn't it? I mean, quick calculation would say something around the 250 or something. I don't really know.
Yeah,
someone
exactly.
should know.
Anyway, right around there.
Right. So you were incredibly fast at running.
Yeah, I guess it was a humbling experience, though.
Holy shit.
Being on the same team as these guys who are the same age as me and running a minute faster over 5K.
How do you deal with that, mate? Because like we stand here now, obviously a few years later, and anyone that's listening, that we have some very good athletes, but I'm not sure anyone's run quite that fast. Like that's an incredibly quick time. Go out, folks. Go out and try and run 400 meters at sub 3 minutes a K and see how you go for the 400 meters. Brian's put that together for 5 consecutive Ks, but still, mate, you're 1 minute off the best guys. How does that, like, how do you feel in that sort of situation?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's a big accomplishment, but that 1 minute, like, yes, it seems sort of close, but it's so far. I mean, if you think about it, that's almost an entire lap on the track that I would be behind.
You'd be behind.
So, yeah, I mean, and that's the beauty of track and field, right? There's the margin of error is so small, and like a little bit of time is actually quite a big difference in fitness and in ability. So
yeah, and I mean that's the thing. Like a lot of people will say, "Oh, he only won the race by 15 seconds." I mean, that's quite a long time as well. 15 seconds, like you said, that's over 100 meters. If you've won a race by over 100 meters, you've won a race quite easily. Yeah. What other distances did you run across then? Go on, give us your best ever 10K time, mate.
Best ever 10K was 30 minutes, like flat.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So not only were you able to run that distance, that speed for 5K, but there's not much drop off to your 10K.
Yeah.
Fastest ever marathon?
Never run a marathon.
It's insane, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's so cool. The fact that people that are such strong athletes, such as yourself, over the short distances, and would have never done a marathon. Yeah. Half marathon?
I've run 2.
Yeah.
One when I was actually fit, I ran 69 minutes. And then my last one was a relay a few weeks ago at the Dubai Ironman.
Yes.
Yeah.
Time?
1:35.
So you've lost it a little bit, but you're still quite quick.
Yeah.
But that was probably just a jog for you.
Yeah.
Very cool, mate. So continue with the story. So you've just bowled up. You're with these pros.
Yeah.
You can obviously handle yourself. Where does it go to from there?
Yeah, so spent a few years racing as a pro. Shortly after moving to Boulder, I qualified to get my pro license. Right. So that's based on performances at races, and then that's how you qualify. And in the U.S., you actually get like a physical card that says like professional triathlete, which is pretty awesome.
Oh, cool. Have you still got it?
Yeah.
Like you still got the picture of the card? That's very cool, mate. Yeah, that must have been a cool day.
Yeah, definitely. But that card means absolutely nothing.
For sure.
So then it's like, put in a few years of work.
Yeah.
Obviously, I got my butt kicked for the first bit,
Really?
and then finally started to kind of find my groove within this group of athletes, and yeah, I mean, had an amazing time racing, traveling a bit. And
how did you finance that part? Because I think this is one of the biggest things that, you know, you're obviously, and people will understand now because I'm making a big deal out of it, you're obviously a high-level athlete, you're an incredibly good runner, and we know that transfers to cycling, and you're training, you're living as a professional athlete. Mm-hmm. But lots of the time, like, everyone knows the top 3 or 4 pros in the world in many of these sports that are actually quite big sports, but all the guys sort of trying to get up there's not a great deal of money kicking around.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, if you look at the sport of triathlon, you can take maybe the top 10 men, top 10 women, and they're making a decent salary.
Right.
Everyone behind them is basically making enough to survive.
Wow.
Essentially.
Wow.
So there's different things. You be creative. You get creative with your living situation. Maybe I was able to find, like, through a friend of a friend, a really kind of cheap place to live. Right. Where I was like almost house sitting for this guy who only spent half the time there, half the time in another city. So I was able to find cheap living that way. Yeah. And then, I had a few sponsors. Some races will fly you out to the race. Nice. And then you can win money at the race. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's
tough,
definitely it's not easy.
Yeah,
it's not easy.
So how long did you do it for? How long did you sort of live the life of a pro with this little... Did you just get your card out everywhere you went? It's like a police officer's card, isn't it? Like, you're under arrest, I am a pro.
Yeah. And then they're like, wait, what is triathlon?
Yeah, exactly. Is that something to do about... Yeah, it's something to do about that.
Yeah, exactly.
So how long did you do it for?
I did 3 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well done, mate. That's something. And then you met someone.
I met, a very significant someone that drove me out to Dubai.
Talk us through that,
man. So I met a guy named Omar Noor, which I think some of you in the region should definitely know.
A lot of people will.
So him and I were training together in 2015, that summer. Just kind of became good friends, training partners. I mean, and it's funny, the friends that I've made from track and field in high school, from track and field at university, and then from triathlon as a pro, like, those are my closest friends.
For sure.
It's amazing the bonds that you build when you're just putting yourselves through just agony every day in, day out. It just builds such a great friendship. Anyways,
absolutely.
So I decided I wanted to be done racing triathlon. Yeah. I was ready for the next chapter of my life. I didn't want to be that athlete that just kept pushing, okay, one more year, and you see it a lot with athletes. Really? And then you get to the age of, like, okay, late 30s, early 40s, and then all you've done is been a triathlete your whole life, and then it's like, what now?
And almost, if you're not, like you said, if you're not in that top 10, you're a second-rate citizen. Like, that's the harsh reality of it, isn't it? And then you wash up at 30 years old, and you're like, skill set is kind of like, what are you used to doing? Well, I'm used to house sitting for people, and I'm used to going out and thrashing my body every day, and I've had a lot of fun doing it. But I don't really have a bigger skill set than that. It's tough, huh?
Right. Yeah, it is. It is. So I was ready for the next chapter. I didn't want to just prolong it. Yes, I was still getting better at the sport, but it got to the point where I was thinking, like, okay, well, how much better am I actually going to get? Where will this take me? And so, anyways, decided to stop. Yeah. Omar had just started a distribution company based in Dubai. Okay. And it was basically three months into the company, and he said, "Look, I've got this company I just started. I need help. You're
no idea what to do with it."
Exactly. You're passionate about sport. I see something in you. I think you can learn the business side of things and move to Dubai if you're ready.
And at that stage, what brands? You say a sports distribution company. What brands did he have the rights to distribute?
So at that point, it was Compress Sport, compression wear, Hoob, which is a wetsuit company based in the UK. We had Archmax, which is like socks and stuff like that. Right. X10X shoelaces.
Right. So all stuff that is got some link to Omar's passion, which is triathlon as well.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. Zero D is a French triathlon company.
Right.
Apparel company.
Okay.
And then basically right after I arrived, we got our biggest company now that we deal with is On, the running shoes.
So how was the transition, mate? Before we go to On, because I want to speak a lot about On. Mm-hmm. How was the transition from pro athlete into an American guy working in Dubai? How does that play out for you mentally?
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge change.
Yeah.
I went from training, say 5-6 hours a day, and then spending the rest of the day just kind of eating and recovering, or getting some sort of physio done, something like that, to and being in the mountains in Colorado, to moving across the world to the Middle East in Dubai and working 12 to 14-hour days. Right.
with brands that on first, I mean, I've heard of a couple of the brands, but I haven't heard of all of the brands. So they're quite niche triathlon brands as well.
Exactly.
Massive challenge.
Yeah.
Harder than running 5K sub 15 minutes.
Probably, yeah.
But isn't it? And this is what. Let's link to this, mate. The lessons that you learn in that training and in that sport, how have they come to, and the tools that you sort of learnt through sport, how have they been useful in the last couple of years here for you in Dubai?
Yeah, I mean, obviously you've got the work ethic.
Yeah.
So whatever needs to get done, however long it takes you to do it, you just get it done.
Just get it done.
I mean, and when I moved out here, the company was very much at the beginning phases. So we had to put a ton of work and time into getting to the company to the point where it is now.
Yeah.
I mean, the work ethic, obviously, like communication skills, stuff like that, and just passion, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the easiest way to boiling it down, we're selling products, right?
Yeah.
The easiest way to sell something is just to believe in it.
To believe in it, yeah.
And so that's what we do.
Do you see? I mean, it seems like it's been easier because you're still in sports. It was like when I finished playing rugby, I moved into Reebok, selling sports gear, that same environment, and something very similar.
Yeah.
What do you think about people that are in a industry or in a job that they're actually really not passionate about at all? Do you have any thoughts on that?
I kind of have mixed feelings about it.
Right.
It depends. I don't know. It depends.
Come on, mate. Go one way or the other. No,
well, okay, but yeah, I mean, look, obviously it helps, and it's much more of a comfortable life if you can work and basically your entire day is spent doing something that you're passionate about.
Yeah, right.
But sometimes, someone's passion might not be something that's super lucrative.
Yeah.
But if they have a job that they can, let's say a standard 9 to 5 type job,
yes.
and then whatever they make with that job, they have more time and energy and money to spend on their passion, let's say.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, of
that's
course,
a pretty decent scenario as well.
Yeah. Of course, it's better to just be fill in.
I think you're absolutely right. I think that's it. I'm obviously a little bit more black and white, but I think what you said is actually very true, mate. I think if you enjoy your job enough and you're all in your job and it's fueling a great life and able you to do those passions as well, I think that's almost like an ideal scenario. Obviously, if you have a passion that is super lucrative, then you're winning.
Yeah.
But if you actually enjoy your job and you're able to fuel all of your passions, I think it's people that don't really enjoy their job at all.
Yeah.
And then they're unable to follow any hobbies or passions. And you actually find that I found that these two are quite well correlated. Like a lot of people that are unhappy in their job don't really have a load of passions as well because they don't have the energy to do it because they're so unhappy in the job. And anyway, we're a bit off point, but it's interesting to hear.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't like your job per se, but you do enjoy the people that you work with, I think that's another thing that could be right as well.
So you land up in Dubai. Very soon, you get distribution of a Swiss brand
Correct.
Called On Running. Give us a little bit of background on the brand. On the brand On.
Yeah. So On Running started in 2010. It was started by a Swiss triathlete, Olivier Bernard.
Right.
He's a few-time world champ.
Wow.
For triathlon, and I think he's come fourth at the Olympic Games.
Wow.
So very, very good athlete. The reason he started the company is because his career actually ended earlier than he would have liked.
Right.
And the reason is because he kept getting injured towards the end of his career.
Right.
And he went from one running shoe to the next, trying to find the running shoe that kept him healthy.
Yeah, right.
And he couldn't find one.
That's very common in running and in the sport of triathlon, right?
Yeah.
You see people moving from one shoe to one shoe to one shoe,
exactly,
looking for something, right?
Yeah, so he ends his career and decides, I'm going to build a shoe that works for me because I couldn't find one out there.
Wow.
So if there wasn't a shoe for me that worked, that's probably the case for a lot of people out there.
Yeah.
So let's try something different.
Wow. So that's how it started in Switzerland, 2010.
Yeah, exactly.
And he's come up with something that is... Talk us through the shoe, mate, because it's a very... I know you guys have different ones, and like let's go through it. Or like, what is the shoe? Why is it different? What sort of shoes are there? Because people will generally go, "Oh, I need a cushioning shoe. Or I need this," and give us a little bit of the more geeky side to it.
Yeah. So actually, sort of the cornerstone of the brand is these clouds, right? So it's run on clouds. That's the tagline for the company.
Right.
What they did, and when they say clouds, they mean the little sort of bubble-shaped things on the bottom of the shoe.
Hang on a minute. If you're watching the YouTube, which I suggest you do, this is one of the shoes, and I guess these are the clouds.
Exactly.
The problem is I can't reach down properly to put it back on, so she'll have to stay off for the rest of the show. But anyway, that was an exhibit. So clouds is sort of the technology.
Exactly.
Right.
And so the reason that Olivier came up with this technology, he went to a few doctors and exercise physiologists, and he's like, the best time my body feels is when I'm running on pavement, but when there's a slight bit of sand on the pavement. So like if you're running near the beach, like a beach road kind of thing, tiny bit of sand on top of the pavement.
Yeah.
And they did tests and studies to figure out, okay, why are you feeling so good under those conditions?
Yeah, right.
And obviously that's a very specific condition.
Slightly,
Not like you can just find that anywhere.
Yeah.
Although in Dubai maybe.
Yeah, it's easier, but still.
Yeah. And the tests that they did determined that basically when you land on that bit of sand, your foot actually keeps moving forward just about a millimeter.
Right.
And that helps to break the tension and the impact.
Wow.
Of course, running is an incredible way to be fit and lose weight and live a healthy life. But if you're not doing it on the right surface or in the right shoes or progressing correctly, it can be very damaging to your body.
It's all I was going to say. It's also a great way to absolutely trash your body.
Yeah, exactly.
And you look at this is the funniest thing, and folks that are not big into running will be saying this. Like, you look at the guys that are running the marathons, you look at the guys that are, they don't look healthy. They look like this, and their legs go a little bit like that, and then you hear people, I used to run, but now my knees can't stand it anymore. And I know that's because they're about 40 kilos overweight, but it can be quite dangerous, right?
Yeah, it can be.
Yeah.
And so they wanted to create a shoe that basically mimicked that feeling of running on this tiny bit of sand on pavement. And the idea is a soft landing and firm takeoff.
Wow.
Which is the optimal running conditions, right? But obviously, and they say it's as if you're landing in sand but taking off on pavement.
Wow.
So obviously, if you're just running in sand, you're not getting any traction. I
know all about that. Thanks. Not so interesting.
So yes, it's soft.
Yeah.
And nice on your joints.
Yeah.
But you can't go very fast in sand
at all.
And then you've got pavement, which is the complete opposite.
Yeah. Right.
Harsh on your joints, but the fastest material there is.
Yeah. Right.
So how do we sort of create a shoe that mimics Both.
Right.
So that's kind of how the clouds were born.
Wow.
So when you land on these clouds, they collapse.
Yep.
And your shoe keeps actually moving forward just about a millimeter.
Right.
And then when you take off, it's still a firm takeoff.
So without insulting the brand, the research, the technology, it's somehow similar to what other brands have been trying to do for a long time. Nike came with shocks that it was just trying to absorb that landing and then spring you off. And every single brand under the sun has come with something that absorbs that landing and then pushes you. What makes On different in that respect then?
Yeah, so I think what makes On a bit different is, so one, these clouds, the shocks on the Nikes, those were at the back of the shoe.
Yeah, yeah.
So unless you're like a massive heel striker, then I don't know, maybe that could work for you.
I always thought that they were so much more for fashion than they were for anything
clearly
else.
It's like it's a marketing thing.
They're an inch, right?
Yeah,
everything that Nike does is for marketing. But I mean, they came out with that was the biggest thing when they launched the Freeze, wasn't it? That, you know, it had something all the way through the foot, but all they did is chop the sole up, and it's actually just an EVA foam, like sole. It's nothing special.
Yeah. So what On does, and they also have a speed plate that's
right.
It's a thin plastic layer that's sewn into the bottom of the shoe.
Yep.
And that's what gives the shoe the structure.
Right.
You look at basically all the other companies out there, and they get the structure from a post that goes from about mid-foot to heel. Okay. And that helps with the structure of the shoe. But what happens there is you lose flexibility in that part of the shoe.
Right.
And there's a breaking point right at the end of that post, right mid-foot.
Got it.
Whereas On is completely even in flexibility throughout the entire shoe.
Wow.
So it doesn't matter which way you land, whether you're a heel striker, a mid-foot striker. Yeah. It doesn't matter with On, and also another one of sort of On's cornerstones is they want you to run the way you were born to run.
Right.
They're not trying to force you one way or the other. We get a lot of people that come up and ask questions about, do you have a shoe for someone that pronates?
Yeah, or arches, for example.
I have. Yeah, and my answer is not really.
No.
We
Sorry, mate. You'll have to go with the guys next door.
But that's not to say that you can't run an On, because On, the way that the shoes are designed is that it does work for everyone.
Right.
It allows you to land the way that your body was born to land, whether it's on the inside of the shoe, the outside of the shoe, because the way the clouds sort of work independently on the sole of the shoe. Yeah. They don't transfer energy across. So, like, let's say you're a heel striker and you land on the outside of your foot.
Yeah.
That part of the shoe that you contact ground with first, in a traditional running shoe, transfers energy across,
which is
a diagonal.
Almost what Nike tried to get rid of with the Free, but
exactly.
We can talk about that in a different way.
And then, but with On, because of the clouds are all working independently, and there's a break down the middle of the shoe, it doesn't transfer that energy the way it does in a standard running shoe.
Very cool.
And just to touch on the Free, like, look, the Free is a great shoe.
Mate, but you don't have to be diplomatic.
No, but I think people don't, and maybe this is Nike's purpose. They don't understand the reason that shoe is created. That shoe is basically for 1, maybe 2 runs a week.
Yeah.
Maximum of 3K.
Yeah.
The idea is to create a barefoot feeling.
Yes.
Running barefoot is an incredible thing to do. Those distances, about 2 to 3K twice a week, strengthens the foot, strengthens the lower leg, all the kind of tiny muscles down there. And so obviously Nike, not everyone has access to like beautiful grass to run on.
Yeah, right.
So Nike's like, okay, well let's come out with a shoe that that they can simulate barefoot running. Right. So the thing is with that shoe is there's no structure to it.
Yeah.
It's not a shoe that you can run in every single day.
Yeah. So if you have that shoe and you're trying to run long miles, what then starts to happen is you start to get issues that we see in running: Achilles tendonitis, shin splints, calf issues, knee joint pain, and stuff like that. But I was thinking, mate, when you're saying that, there's not actually much of the population that actually do run more than twice a week and more than 3Ks at a time. But again, that's something for another time. Mate, I want to ask you, because actually it's quite a funny story about On shoes. I was gifted a pair. Mohammed Qasim, who I think you know, gave me a pair of On shoes maybe 2 years ago for my birthday, and I'd seen them around the triathlon scene, and I was like, I've always been quite a sort of what you'd call, what we were saying, like more of a barefoot running shoe, so I don't want a big heel at the back, and I'd run a lot of my ultras in InnerFight, but I'd seen all the triathlon guys use these, and I was like, the Swiss will not be wrong, this will be the right shoe. So I got into them, and actually we're taking Munim, the cameraman, down. He did his first marathon this January, and he needed some new shoes, so we took him to Adventure HQ, and that's where I spotted those the shoes that were actually not in stock in my size. The point is that at that time we were buying, it seemed like the shoe that I wanted was incredibly light, whereas the shoe that Munim was chasing that felt more comfortable for him was a little bit more of a, I wouldn't call it more stable than my shoe, but it was definitely a little bit heavier. So talk us through who should be looking, you guys have different models, who should be looking at buying what sort of shoe? The chunkier ones, none of them are really that chunky, or the pair that I ordered online are just like, I don't know how much they weigh, a few hundred grams. They're amazing. You don't feel like you're wearing them. So what are the difference in models, and who should be after what? That's the question. Yeah,
so I mean, again, it depends, one, on the person, two, on what type of running you're planning on doing in them. So let's say you're training for a marathon, and you're putting in, if you're training seriously, maybe 100K a week.
Did you hear that, guys? If you want to train seriously for a marathon, Brian says 100K a week. I'm with you. I love it.
Perfect. So if you're training for a marathon and you want a shoe that you can race in as well, and you feel, or if you feel like you're someone who needs extra cushioning, extra support, then the Cloud Flyer is the shoe for you. So that's On's quote unquote stability shoe. That's their long run shoe. Sort of the tagline for that one is now shorter long runs. So it's meant to be like, okay, well, let's say you just did a 20K run. It doesn't feel like you just did a 20K run, because you were well supported, well cushioned on the shoe.
So it does have a bit more cushioning in that one. Cool. What about for the shorter stuff? What should people be looking at? Because the range seems to be getting bigger as the company develops. So what should people be looking for? I mean, it is getting bigger, but I think one of the great things about On is they also do keep it pretty simple. The names can be a bit confusing. There's no order to them, is there?
Well, not really.
What do I have? A few. I don't know if these ones. Cloud Racer.
Those are the Cloud Rush.
Cloud Rush, and I think I've got a pair of Cloud Racer. I don't know. Who knows?
So that mid-range shoe, you basically have two options. The Cloud Flow, which is my ultimate favorite. That's what I run in every day. Check this out whilst you talk. Go. So Cloud Flow, and then you've got the Cloud Surfer. Both have the same purpose as far as this is a shoe that you can run in every day. It's still pretty lightweight. It doesn't have all the support and cushion that the Flyer does, but most people don't necessarily need all that support and cushion. But these two shoes, so similar usage, just a different sort of application as far as the technology on the bottom goes. So the Cloud Surfer uses rebound rubber, it's called. And then the Cloud Flow, it would be more similar, I guess, to a traditional shoe feeling. And that's the Cloud Tech foam.
These shoes are so cool. They're actually wicked. That's one thing that I actually really like about them, is that there isn't a whole load. That's why when I was wearing InnerFight, I used to really like it, because they had a few models, and it's actually really well done. I suggest folks hop over to the site on-running.com, and you can check out what Brian's talking about. They've got one section, active, stability, performance, race is what you were talking about there. And actually, this was one question. I've just found my own answer. I should have probably hopped on the site. You guys actually do trail shoes as well.
We do. We've only brought in one model of the trail shoe. So that's the Cloud Venture. Look, trail running is not the biggest thing in the Middle East.
Yeah.
Of course, it's much more popular in Europe and in the U.S. with the mountains and everything to climb.
Yeah.
So we've been a bit hesitant with bringing in the adventure or the off-road versions of the shoes.
Yeah, right.
So we've kind of tested it with one of the models, and it's done okay. Not as well as we would have liked.
I'm in the market for a new set of trail running shoes, and I normally buy InnerFight. I won't put you under pressure there, mate.
Cloud Venture.
Here we go. This is the sales guy coming out. He doesn't care about me as the athlete. He just wants to sell. But going back to where we really were, for that mid-range runner, the race category is kind of where people should be playing, is it?
Actually, I'm not super familiar with the categories on International's website.
It's the ones that you've said, mate. So Cloud Surfer, Cloud Flow, Cloud Rush, and this one is actually super awesome. I don't know why I didn't order it when I was ordering. I think it's because I've got too many pairs of shoes. But Cloud Flash.
It
looks like it would probably weigh about 200 grams.
Yeah, so that's actually the shoe that they launched at the Rio Olympic Games. So that was the first time anyone saw those shoes. There was about 11 sponsored athletes in the triathlon at the Olympic Games, and so those athletes wore the shoe, and that was the first time that it was launched. What
about just for someone who wants an all-round sort of shoe, mate? Because these sort of in the ones that we've just been talking about there, for a lot of people, that's quite correct me if I'm wrong, but it's quite a slim sort of running shoe. And a lot of people say that doesn't give me enough support. What's your sort of thoughts and your response to a stupid comment like that someone like me, mate?
It's not a stupid comment, but no, I mean, I think those shoes really can work for anyone.
Right.
You do if you do feel like you need the more support and more cushion, then step up to the Cloud Flyer.
Right.
That's going to give you what you're looking for.
Right.
And then you've got those the Flow and the Surfer are your mid-range ones, and then you've also have the racing shoes.
Right. Mate, I could talk about shoes the whole day. We do have to move on. Just as a reference point for people, you guys are the distributor.
Right.
What's the name of the company? Where can people buy these shoes in Dubai? A lot of our listeners are in Dubai.
Yep.
Where should people go to get them?
Yeah, so our company is called Enduro Supply, which doesn't really matter to anyone, honestly. We don't push that at all because for us it's all about the brands. So Enduro Supply is just basically a name for our distribution company. But for On Shoes, Adventure HQ.
Yep.
At Times Square Center and in JBR.
Yep.
Very soon, Go Sport, MOE.
Wow, congratulations.
Yeah, so looking forward to that.
That's a big win.
Yeah, so any day now, we'll be able to find them there. Online, you've got Namshi.
Okay.
Trysook.com.
Right.
Then in some smaller cycling shops, you've got B Sport Cycling Shop, which actually is right next door.
Yes, very close.
And then Yaz Cycles down in Yaz Island.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
So I didn't realize the guys at B Sport actually stock
those
shoes.
Yeah.
So anyone who's a member who wants to go and try a pair, and I don't know, if you speak nice to those guys, they might let you run around the block in them. Don't tell them that I said that, and don't run through the sewerage on the way. But yeah, they should go and they can go and check them out there. Yeah. I'm totally sold on them. I think they're fantastic shoes, and I've used a lot of different shoes, but for running, and like you said, for sort of running 20Ks in a decent pair of shoes, you just don't feel your legs afterwards, or you don't feel any problems with your legs afterwards. They are actually great shoes. Mate, let's jump back for the last 3 minutes to you personally.
Yeah.
As an athlete, what's going on these days? What are your goals? You did the run leg of the half Ironman a few weeks ago here in Dubai.
I did.
What's your goals as far as your athletic ability or career is concerned now?
You know what? To be honest, I don't really have any goals right now.
So we need to sit down for another hour without the mics, and we'll sort that out.
Yeah, no, I mean, lately I just kind of I mix it up in the gym, do some gym work, and then run every now and then. I don't have a bike out here, so I haven't been on the bike in a while.
Wow.
But
do you miss it? Do you miss the competitive side, or are you so busy selling On running shoes and all the other brands and keeping everyone happy that you don't have time to miss it?
Yeah, I do. when I go to the gym or when I go and do these sign up for these random events, I get sort of my fix of competitiveness.
Yeah.
When I first decided to retire from triathlon and move out here, I actually did absolutely nothing for exercise.
Oh, really?
For probably 4 or 5 months.
Wow.
And look, I needed a break because it was my life. It was just completely took over my life.
Yeah.
But then it got to the point where I realized how much I did need to do something.
Yeah.
And once I got back into it, I felt so much better for it.
Better.
Yeah.
Right. Well, you're still young, and I think if anyone at varsity can run a sub 15-minute 5K, I think at your age, just a few years on, you can still run pretty fast. Mate, one question that we wrap up all of our shows with our guests is, if there was one piece of advice that you've learned along the way, either from your track career or from an American moving to Dubai, setting up a distribution company and bringing a Swiss brand over here, which is a crazy mix of cultures, personalities, and all sorts, what would that one piece of advice be that you'd leave people with?
I guess from a running or athletics standpoint, I think the most important thing for me is, one, consistency, and two, mixing it up.
Yeah.
So don't do the same thing every day.
Yeah.
There's a time and a place for everything.
Yeah, right.
And just be consistent with it, and also mixing it up. Not only are you constantly testing your body, and allowing your body to grow, but you're also, it's more fun, right?
Yeah,
if you go out and do the same thing every day,
it has to be fun, right?
So keep it fun, mix it up, and just have a good time,
mate. I'm sure we could go on and talk about triathlon, about running shoes, and completely geek out for a lot longer. We'd probably get you back on the show.
Yeah, awesome. 6
months, a year. Let's see what On's doing. I'm super excited to see it. I think everyone is also super excited to see how a guy that could run that fast is not running that fast now. So that's our challenge as a show to you. But Brian, thank you so much for your time, mate. It's been super awesome. Guys, go and check out On Running. Check out these guys, Adventure HQ, Go Sports, all of those places, Tri-Sook, Namshi. Go and check it all out. These shoes, and that's one thing we didn't talk about on the price, these shoes are super well priced. People are paying a lot of money for the brand new Nikes or Adidas that are actually terrible for your body, don't help you run faster. Yes, I said it. It's my show. I'm allowed to say whatever I want and slam whoever I want. And they're paying more money than what On's cost. So anyone who comes up to me and says that On running shoes at 700, 750 dirhams are expensive, get out of town. They are amazing shoes, and you buy like these shoes. I've got 5 or 6 pairs because I'm an idiot, but I've had one pair for about 3 years, and I'm still running them a lot, and they feel great. Wow. Which is not good for your business model, mate. But there we go. That was Brian. That was On Running. Thanks a lot for tuning into the show, folks. Don't forget, rate and review the podcast, or I will come round to your house and force feed you Smith Street Paleo. Until next time, take care.